Hello, I'm Richard Ridge for Broadway World. The hit musical The Great Gatsby continues to dazzle audiences here at the Broadway Theatre, where I caught up with two of the show's creators, husband and wife Kait Kerrigan, who wrote the book, and Nathan Tysen, who wrote the lyrics. So first of all, I'm thrilled to be talking and sitting with both of you here at your theater, the Broadway Theatre, right before a matinee. What a journey the two of you have been on with this show. So just take me back to the beginning. How did you come about to get this gig to write it?
Well, it all came through Jason Howland. Jason Howland is the composer, and I worked on Paradise Square with Jason. And although we were put together on that project, this is kind of like dating, you know what I mean? We're like, maybe these two could write a score together, and becoming very fast friends and very good collaborators. I just really liked how he worked. And of course, Kait and I are married. And Kait was, of course, part of the process. We're always part of each other's processes. And Jason kind of fell in love with Kait. Kait always had great dramaturgical notes with Paradise Square. And Jason does, oh, go ahead.
No, there were some late nights in Berkeley where we had our daughter who was, she was about 3 at the time, our older daughter, and I would be back at the little apartment complex, and they would come back after hours and try to figure out what they were going to fix next, how are they going to solve a problem, and I was just there, and the three of us started realizing that we had a real shared connection with what we cared about in dramaturgy. So it was really, so Jason actually had the idea that we could all work together on a project. And initially, we were asked to write The Great Gatsby for our producer is from Korea, Mr. Shin, and he asked us to do it for Korea. We were not bringing it to the United States at all, but because of the pandemic, because of the timing, we were doing some of the development here, and then slowly but surely, we started to gain momentum here, and we started to talk some theaters, and we said, well, maybe we'll just do it out of town first, and we'll develop it a little bit more here. And then we got some really great actors, and we developed these really great relationships, and suddenly there were all these new opportunities that started to present itself. So we have whiplash.
Totally. But this came together when you started writing. It came together pretty fast, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we were approached, Jason was approached first by Mr. Shin to do this adaptation, and he said, can I do it with American writers? This is an American novel. Mr. Shin said yes. We wrote a treatment in December of 2019, and then, COVID happened, and everything shut down, and it wasn't until basically a year later that we started, a contract was signed, and we started to think about writing it. Then Paradise Square happened. So it was after that opened, finally the three of us got in a room together. We now had a 6-month-old baby. We went to Jason's house in Connecticut, which no longer exists, very sad. I mean, the house still exists, but it's not his. And we started writing our first song. So that was June of 21. So these songs are just like a little over 3 years old.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you about collaborations. They're really, really special, and I'd love to ask creatives. Of course, you two are married, so I want to know about that dynamic. Like, are you sitting in bed and be like, oh my gosh, I think I have an idea for a scene?
Well, I do think that during the pandemic, it was especially nice to actually be able to work in person with somebody, which is something that we hadn't been doing very much with anybody else. And so we during the pandemic, while we were waiting to do this show, we weren't sure if it was going to happen. We didn't know if theater was ever coming back. We did like a little trial project with Jason called A Killer Party. It was like all digital. And we had all these stars in lockdown filming themselves, including Jeremy Jordan. Yeah. And so we had this really nice little test period where we sort of learned about our collaboration together, but we got to work together in person, which was so nice. And I think that we had watched each other collaborate with so many different people, and we had talked about those collaborations and learned so much about how we collaborate outside of our own marriage with other people. And we're both kind of obsessed with that idea of collaboration, how it works and how you can do better. So it was really fun to jump in with each other and figure that out together. And by and large, it it was only fun. And Jason was such an incredible third partner for us. And there were times where the two of you were off on your own, you were doing your own thing. There were times when Jason and I were working on something, and it really was very symbiotic, and it didn't feel like it felt like there was so much room to have ideas and throw things out there, and it felt very safe, and it was just one of the best collaborations of my life.
I haven't worked with a lot of playwrights that also write lyrics, so it was very, very nice to be able to talk to Kait, that she kind of understands song structure and what we would need in order to set up a song. So much of the creation of the score was done with all three of us, sitting around kind of brainstorming where do we think the great song moments are, possible hooks, kind of what the arc of the story of the character's journey of each song was. So we all were on the same page before anyone kind of split up and started kind of really getting into the nitty-gritty of creating it.
Yeah, that first week that we spent at Jason's house was when they wrote some of the first songs. We wrote Roaring On started that week. There was another one too. I think
The Met.
New Money, but we changed a lot of it. But the idea of New Money, the Met started that week. We came up with a lot of amazing ideas. But one of the things that I love to do when I'm writing a musical, especially if I'm writing the book, if I can, is to outline the entire show as a group, and to figure out what the song moments are as a group, and come up with fake hooks as a group, and so that everybody kind of knows what you're trying to do, and that it's not the book writer saying, well, this is what the story is, or the composer and lyricist going away and deciding on what the songs are. It's all one thing that this group of people put onto a table, and it's not one person's idea.
Well, what I love about this run is, I mean, it's running and running and running. Fans fly in from all over the world to see The Great Gatsby on Broadway. What does it mean to the two of you as creators and artists to see the joy this musical is giving audiences?
Well, we talked a little bit about how because the initial assignment was to write it for Korea, automatically when we were approaching the adaptation, we wanted it to feel universal. And because of that, I think it is. I think it's hitting and connecting to a lot of people that aren't just Americans. And that's been very rewarding. And we have the best fans on Broadway.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. They have to keep adding more barriers because it just keeps wrapping around the theater, which is so exciting. And people, return trips, and we also love our social media team. The way that, I grew up in a very small town in Kansas. There are people that will never make it to New York to see the show, but they feel like they know these. Not only do they know the show, but they know the performers. The kind of like unbelievable backstage access that you get here. You feel like it's a bit of a family.
Yeah, I think there's something. I came up in theater when Off-Broadway kind of fell apart for a little while, and Nathan did too. We both started at the same time, and one of my biggest collaborators is Brie Loudermilk, and the two of us found YouTube and found these fandoms online, and that was where I lived. That was my bread and butter. I sold sheet music to young performers, and so being able to be in a show like this that has the energy and the machine and the title and all of those things, but then also has this kind of bespoke fandom and this relationship with its fans is the most perfect fit for me. I feel so grateful every day to be able to watch our social media team do like massively more than I could ever imagine doing, but I can appreciate what they do because I did it on a smaller scale, and being able to watch that happen and then grow and become international it's just the best feeling.
And speaking of growing internationally,
I was going to just
very
talk about
excited
where are you going next?
to talk about
Yes.
Great Gatsby opening on the West End this spring. It's going to run April through September at the Coliseum. It's going to be absolutely beautiful. We are very, very excited. Heading to London in a month or so to do some auditions, find a cast. Off we go.
Well, I love the two of you. I'm thrilled they're going to open your house. The 20s music has started here. Great to see you and have the best time
Thank
in
you.
London.
Thank
All right.
you.